watched Ocean's 11 again.
Mm-hmm.
I planned on only watching like the first couple of minutes while I was like grilling food and stuff. And I got sucked into it because I forgot how well that movie is shot.
Yeah.
Like, it's gorgeous. And Steven Soderbergh DPs a lot of his own movies under the name Peter Andrews, which I had to look down on my phone.
Yeah.
But for some reason, he has a pseudonym. I don't know why. Maybe in case he does a bad job and doesn't want it tied to his own name. Or maybe it feels like the crew is bigger. I have no idea. But I was so impressed with it that I wanted to see what his movies were before that. And he's one of those guys that just has been doing it so long. So like his early movies look really early. Mm-hmm. And I rented this movie called Limey. And the description was this like hard-boiled, gruff guy from London comes to LA and tries to avenge the death of his daughter. I'm like, that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
I want to watch that. And I think it was filmed like 3 years or 4 years, maybe longer, before Ocean's 11. So I was expecting the cinematography to be like close in the same vein. And it wasn't at all.
No.
Like, it's very, and I don't know if it's intentional or because of how low budget it was. Mm-hmm. Maybe both. It's like extremely low budget.
Really?
It's a good watch. Like,
are we talking like handheld camera, low budget?
Handheld. I think it's shot on film, but it looks very DV. The older English guy, he does a pretty good job, but like he's very like generically gruff. And a lot of the acting, like, it's obvious they didn't do like a ton of takes.
Right.
And everything is like extremely handheld and like it actually looks similar to like 28 Days Later.
Okay, so
it kind of looks like that, but it works really well for that movie.
Well, maybe it was a stylistic choice, you know? Like maybe...
I don't think so, though.
You don't think so?
No, because the editing and the sound and stuff.
I bet you would have liked that.
I took it as like, okay, this is a movie where Soderbergh was like learning a lot of things, and like it felt like a big student film.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of those like sort of like what is supposed to be like an action or intense scene, and it's like either like overacting or like it just doesn't come off in the way that you would expect it to. Still, I would say like if you want to check it out, I'd watch Ocean's 11. And then watch this movie, and it's...
So you recommend backtracking?
Yeah, like, it's just a great watching this arc of, man, like, what improvement from here to here.
Interesting.
And then I was watching a little bit of Traffic, and I forget if that movie is afterward, Ocean's 11, or before. I want to say it's before. But it looks a little bit similar to the Limey movie.
Really?
In the sense of, like, it's more handheld. It's a little more, like, digitally processed. I think that one's still shot on film, but like the color correction, I think that was right when digital color correction was getting big. So like Mexico is extremely like orangey and like really really washed out. It looks like it kind of looks like the like Windows Movie Maker effect of like just super grainy. And then the one in DC that like focuses on the politicians is extremely blue. And again, like interesting to watch just because it's someone who is like taking a risk at a different stylistic choice. Just going through his filmography is like such an interesting
especially because, you know, if you think like a director or whatever and you see a giant stylistic change from one movie to another, you just assume that the cinematographer or DP changed over. But if it's the guy that's doing it himself, that's interesting.
Yeah.
One of the movies I got to watch too while you were gone was Love and Mercy. That one...
Oh, the John Cusack one?
Yeah, John Cusack and Paul Dano playing Brian Wilson of Beach Boys fame. Dude, that's actually a really good movie.
Is it?
It's easily one of the better biopics because it doesn't follow a formula. It does this back and forth thing because Brian Wilson suffered from some pretty serious psychological problems. Like, you know, he started pretty young when he started doing drugs that really started to fuck with him.
Right.
But he had like auditorial hallucinations. But that was one of the reasons why he was an amazing songwriter, was because he was hearing these things when he was young. Like, it was crazy, but he was hearing the songs in his head, and he just emulated them entirely. It wasn't like this thing where he created the song within himself. The way he was looking at it... Oh, you're
telling me that like they have like the murmured sort of blurred version
it'd
of
be
the
crazy.
audio?
And it was so well done in that regard.
You should know, Brian is a very, very sick man.
I hear voices. I didn't tell you because I didn't want to scare you away.
One thing that's cool about the movie is that it doesn't follow the format of here he is young and here he is until he's old and this is where we are now.
Yeah.
Like all the other biopics do. This one, it goes back and forth. So it starts off with just old footage, like they did over old footage of the Beach Boys playing, Paul Dano's playing, and then it...
Like real footage? Or
Yeah, like they made it look like real footage of like them doing concerts and stuff like that. And like when they were originally starting and it was, you know, get around, I get around, you know. Then it cuts, hard cuts, and it's Elizabeth Banks is at a car dealership and John Cusack's sitting inside of this like Camaro or something like that, whatever car that she was selling. And he's just like totally bumbling and kind of crazy, and she's talking to him, and then she finds out it's Brian Wilson, so she, you know, because he's got like this entourage, and Paul Giamatti plays like his psychologist or something like that.
Not the record producer?
Right? He's in all these movies for some reason. It's hilarious. Any biopic, I guess. But actually, yeah, he's the godfather of biopics, it seems.
Yeah.
John Adams. He was in Cinderella Man. He was in Boys in the Hood, right?
Straight Outta Compton.
Straight Outta Compton. Sorry, I'm white.
He was in the Beastie Boys.
Yeah.
Biopic,
Sabotage.
right?
He plays like his psychologist, and he's basically like the story behind it. I don't want to spoil too much, but he's very involved with Brian Wilson's life at this point. And this section is set in the 80s when he was at his like lows. He just came out of that being in bed for like 3 months straight and being 300 pounds.
Oh, I always forget about that detail.
Yeah, like he had this moment where he was just bedridden for 3 months. And it was weird because it was like Brian Wilson had these issues growing up, but they were never that bad. He had problems on planes and things like that, but for the most part he was able to control himself and compose himself. And he would just use music as the outlet. You know, he'd hear these things in his head, and the only way he could get it out would just be through recording it.
Yeah.
There's some scenes in that movie. It just goes to show how fucking talented Paul Dano is, because there's an entire one take where it's him sitting at a piano, and it's just him singing like the origin version of God Only Knows. Camera circling around the piano. You see him actually playing it. He's hitting all those high notes, which Brian Wilson high notes are not easy, man. Like, it was really impressive. And John Cusack, I mean...
Was he good in it?
Really good. Yeah, really good.
I wish he took better roles more often.
Yeah, I know. It's unfortunate. Plus,
I wish he played Edgar Allan Poe more times.
Did I tell you... Yeah, right. Did I tell you about how my uncle flew him on one of the private jets and said he was the biggest dick that he's ever flown in his life? He's flown assholes before, but he said, like, the top three were, like, Martha Stewart... John Cusack and somebody else I'm forgetting, but he was saying that John Cusack was just a total...
Martha Stewart probably takes 2 slots in the top 3.
That might be it, yeah. But yeah, I mean, it was, you know, Cusack was really good. One thing that was a cool tactic that the director had was he didn't want Paul Dano and John Cusack to ever meet during production, because he didn't want them to start copying each other's styles. He wanted them each to have their own portrayal of the character. But overall, it's a really good movie, and it's one of the better biopics because it jumps back and forth between him being old and him being young. There's some really cool scenes where he's recording. I mean, there's just great takes where he's like actually getting dogs into the studio and like having them bark for certain parts, and like they're like barking on this microphone, you know, like got these trained dogs, and like like, you know that scene in Walk Hard where he's like going through his acid phase.
I'm hearing more Aboriginal percussionists, and I want an army of didgeridoos. 50,000 didgeridoos.
Yeah,
like that. It's a parody almost of that kind of mentality that Brian Wilson had, because he definitely had a reputation for doing that. He would just bring in whatever the fuck he wanted into the studio and like somehow made it work. You know what I mean?
I just remember, this has nothing to do with your movie, but remember at my other apartment where I would turn off the fridge? I would turn off the fridge for the audio.
Didn't you forget to turn it back on one
there
time?
were several times where I forgot to turn it back on,
Yeah.
and like all the food would go bad in the fridge. I watched Upstream Color.
Who's that?
It's Shane Carruth. That's the director's name.
Okay.
He's the guy who did Primer. Did you see that movie?
I don't think I did.
Primer is a time travel movie that's less of a movie and more of a puzzle. So the way they set up the time travel is extremely
Oh wait, is
like,
that one
complicated.
with the two guys?
2 guys, they sit in the box.
Yeah, okay, I did see that. Yeah. And they watch themselves from like a distance, and
Yeah,
I
and
saw
the whole earbud thing.
I didn't see the whole thing. I saw like most of it though.
Okay.
My brother was watching it, and I walked in.
Yeah. It's good, but again, it's more of a puzzle than it is a movie. I don't know if at any point you love any of the characters, and he has this kind of like sense of his films that it's kind of almost like you're observing real people in sort of their more mundane situation, and not mundane in like a funny way,
Right.
like more mundane and like they're trying to do something and they're just having conversations. Similarly, Upstream Color is like the experimental version of that movie.
So like
it's not time travel.
Even more fringy.
Yeah, it's like an extremely artsy movie.
Huh.
Like very abstract. The premise is there's these worms that this guy harvests and creates basically like a drug out of. He ends up drugging this woman, and then she goes through like this whole trip, and it really just like fucks with her life. So then the rest of the movie is kind of her aftermath of that, and she's trying to kind of piece together what happened throughout the movie. So it's kind of a mystery, but she's also like building up this relationship with this guy played by the director, and they sort of are going through this relationship, but the way the movie is cut together and formatted is like very out of order. Like you'll be watching a scene and then it kind of cuts to another scene. It's like you're watching a stream of conscious of like a movie. So you're getting these little bits of it, and you can kind of tell when characters are like having a good time or when they're more stressed out. If you watched it in like a theater with like a general audience, you just walk out of it being like, what in the world did we just watch? But it's kind of a good one to sort of watch by yourself, because you're sort of like putting together these pieces and figuring out, oh, okay, this and that and these. And is actually like, I thought it was a good movie.
Yeah.
I think it's worth checking out. It's 100% abstract. You can kind of get a narrative out of it, and you get a sense for the characters throughout the thing, and you can kind of piece together the plot, but throughout you kind of don't know where things are going, which I like about it.
Yeah.
Cinematography wise, the movie is almost all close-ups.
Really?
Like there might be like a handful of wide shots, but almost everything is like an extreme close-up, which I think maybe is intentional to make it feel like it's real claustrophobic. And it's almost more like a movie of someone dealing with like a mental illness while also trying to figure out something that happened to them.
Huh.
And the music was pretty cool too. But if you're up for watching like a real long abstract piece,
Yeah,
I would
I'm
recommend.
down. I mean, as long as it's not as bad as what was the Ryan Gosling one?
Only God Forgives.
Yeah. Only God Forgives.
No, not in that way.
Okay, good.
It's not like a lot of long takes like that. It's more like, oh, they cut in an interesting place.
Oh, I see. That's good. Keeps it moving.
Yeah.
I guess we can end on one thing that I'm really excited for. They pretty recently released a teaser for Trainspotting 2.
Oh, yeah.
And just perfect teaser for that movie, because it's just cut and dry, simple. You know exactly what you're going to get. You see all the big guys of that movie are there.
Yeah.
And the other amazing thing, Louis C.K. touched on this not too long ago, but god damn it. Fucking Ewan McGregor's like 50 years old and he looks so
great.
good. Everybody else is like old and withering away, and like just Ewan McGregor's standing there and he looks better than he did in the first one. Like, it is fucking weird. He's just Benjamin Buttoning on us, you know what I mean? But like,
did you see the trailer for the movie he's directing?
no,
It looks really good.
really?
It's kind of like a time period thriller. It used a Mad World cover on it.
The Gary Jules one?
Yeah. But I think it was a different version of the song. We normally what happens is the camera's cut out
And then we just give up.
and then we splice some audio in. So this time we
Fizzle.
actually have an exit. So thanks for watching the ScreenPunch video podcast.
Oh,
Tune in next
We're not
week.
going to want to do an exit anymore because this is going to be so bad.
Should we?
It's almost more graceful to just like have the cameras all cut out at the same time.
How about this? We do thanks for watching, and then at the end of watching, we just cut out early.
Thanks for what? Like that?
Yeah, that's the one I think.
Which camera? Do we look in the center one and go like,